My name is Dylan Murphy, and today I want to tell you guys why failure is actually the secret ingredient to success. Things are not always what they seem in life. Life oftentimes works the exact opposite way of how we plan it in our own minds. We pursue success through a straight line trajectory, from point A to point B in a line in the middle with zero disruptions. But life doesn't work that way all the time. Life throws us curveballs that forces us to adapt. And it is this process that is ultimately required to achieve success in whatever we are pursuing. This process we call failure is the secret sauce to success. I stand before you tonight, the son of a father who survived stage 4 cancer with 7% chance to live, declared by the doctors, as well as a 20-year-old college athlete who suffered a career-ending injury just weeks ago. Tonight, I'm going to go through 3 examples of historical examples that teach us that failure leads to success, as well as 2 personal stories. So with that, let's talk about Walt Disney. We all know him today as the owner of the Disney Company that has all the kids' movies and all the attraction parks, a huge brand. Well, Walt Disney's goal at first was to start an animation company. And how did he fail, you may ask? Well, he moved to Hollywood and he lost the rights to his first successful character that he created after a contract dispute. He put in all this work and effort just for the contract to give the rights to the company. Well, how did he learn from this failure? Instead of giving up, Disney was forced to adapt and learn from the failure of his contract rights. And it is out of this lesson came Mickey Mouse, which he owned all the rights to, and is the famous character we know today and that led Disney to create the Disney brand that we all know and enjoy today. What about Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan's goal was to play basketball for his high school team and see where his career would go from there. His failure occurred whenever he got cut from his high school team his sophomore year. And this forced him to change something up to learn from this if he wanted to be successful. So after that, he turned competitive frustration into an unmatched work ethic. And after this, he was able to come back after a year of grinding and thinking about his failure, and that allowed him to work hard and give him a work ethic that lasted day in and day out, and ultimately led him to make the team his junior year and eventually earn a scholarship to play in college at University of North Carolina. Then after that, he became the GOAT of basketball. And before anybody in this room mentions LeBron James, it is Michael Jordan. We can have this debate another time. Lastly, I want to talk about Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison's goal was to invent the light bulb. And he, while doing this, failed 10,000 attempts of making that. And through these attempts, we would all be very discouraged and it would be so easy to give up. But instead of that, through this failure, he changed his mindset that these attempts, each individual one, was an individual step towards that end goal. And eventually, instead of letting frustration overwhelm him, this mindset change allowed him to stick with the process and ultimately invent the light bulb and allowed him to become one of the greatest inventors of our time. So these are 3 historical examples. You may ask, how does this relate to a 20-year-old in this classroom tonight? Well, as I mentioned, my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in his lungs and colon, and the doctors gave him a 7% chance to live. Just before I get into that, I want to give you guys some brief context. My life as a middle schooler was perfect. My biggest worry was getting out in dodgeball in PE class that day. Life was great. My life trajectory was boom to boom. I had no flaws and thought that life was just going to go smooth. I was in a great family, and we all had that same mindset that life was going our way and it was all going to be good. Then one day, my dad called me out to the pool, as well as everybody else in my family, and he announced to us, just by the pool on a random Saturday, that he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and that the doctors gave him a 7% chance to live. And as any middle school student, that is something that is beyond hard to hear. And it was just crazy, and I just wish that nobody ever has to experience that. But what was kind of weird was that my dad said this statement, such a powerful, crazy statement, with such a confidence and a calm nerve. We'll get back to that in a second. So I remember a few weeks later, my dad's going through chemotherapy. We find out the route. He has to have 2 major surgeries, get half of his lung removed. We just find this crazy path that he has to overcome if he wants even a chance at beating this thing. And so I remember it was just a long week of school. It was a Saturday coming up that my dad wasn't going to be at my basketball tournament because of the chemotherapy. And I was just sitting there late at night, just overwhelmed. And just thinking to myself, I thought back to when he told me about his cancer and that confidence in that just wild statement. And I was like, what's behind that? There has to be something there. Why is the person who's going through this, it's his body, why is he the least scared out of all of us, out of everybody in my family? He was the most confident. Why is that? So I thought behind that, and I thought behind the fact that after that statement, my dad said that a 7% chance in humanity and medically by doctors can be a 100% chance in God. And it was that statement that ultimately led me to surrender my life to Christ that night and pray that he would give me that same confidence that he gave in my dad. And so out of that failure of our life trajectory completely switching and everything we thought, out of that failure, God brought me to him and installed a faith in me, a faith that gave me the confidence to overcome the fear of losing my dad, and a faith that would last me through all of my life, struggles, including this one. So recently I lost my dream. As I mentioned, I suffered an injury that ended my basketball career suddenly. Throughout life, my goal was always to play college basketball. From a kid, as you saw in that last picture, at the last slide, I was just a kid, and I always wanted to play college basketball. I wanted to see where that thing took me, and I worked day in and day out for that. Well, I earned that goal in high school after a great high school career and was able to play 2 years in Florida, about 15 minutes away from my parents' house, and I thought, man, this is going great. So after those 2 years, unfortunately my coach left, which made me transfer to here. So I was like, okay, slight hiccup, all is good, we'll transfer up here, finish out the career, all will be good. So I could transfer up here, and first open gyms are going great, I'm feeling good, getting into the swing of things. And then eventually, I remember there was an open gym on a Thursday night, and it was about 45 minutes long, and I'm unable to finish it because my knee is just in insane pain. And, being tall, being a giraffe, unfortunately one of the problems is that you have knee pain as a tall person. So before you wish you were taller, think twice. But anyway, I'm going through the open gym, unable to finish it, so I'm like, if I can't get through 45 minutes, there's got to be something behind this. So I go in for an MRI, and it reveals that I had tore my patellar tendon, which is the tendon that runs in front of your knee. I tore it 50%, and it basically holds everything in your knee together, so it's very important. The doctors revealed that I would be able to go through this stem cell treatment, which was a new treatment and alternative to surgery that allowed you to recover in just 10 weeks' time. So once again, I was like, sweet. Even though this sucks, it's just a slight hiccup, and after these 10 weeks, we'll hit the ground running and finish off the career the way that I drew it up. And so I go through those 10 weeks, and through those 10 weeks, I'm obviously a long way from home. So I'm a little bit homesick, but really those were just the 2 hiccups through that process. After those 10 weeks, I get back, and there's 4 weeks that I'm able to play. And the first 3 were all right. I felt like I was just getting back. And after 10 weeks, it's kind of hard. And I go through those first 3 weeks. At the end of the third is Christmas break. So I go home for Christmas break, and I remember one night, I'm just outside late at night walking my dogs. I got 2 French little bulldogs, so I was taking them for a walk. And I remember going down my driveway to get to the sidewalk and just take a lap around the neighborhood. And as I'm walking down the sidewalk, or my driveway, there's a curb about this tall. So I step down from it, and I remember my knee just completely buckling and giving out, and I fall to the ground. I'm like, that shouldn't happen. So that 4th week, I return back up here, and I'm practicing, and then once again, it gets to the hour mark. I'm unable to finish. My knee is just in agonizing pain. Next practice, 45 minutes. Boom, done. I'm like, there has to be something behind this. So I go in, get another MRI, and I find out that I tore it again to 80%. And I'm like, okay, well, if the first treatment didn't work, where do we go from here? And they told me that the best thing, so that I would not rupture my patellar tendon, which is a 2.5-year recovery and one of the most major injuries you can get in sports, the best thing to do would be to end my basketball career, get a surgery, and never play again. And that shattered my dreams that I worked for as a kid. But through that failure, the failure of a failed basketball career, you may ask, like, what do you learn? Your goals just shattered by an injury. What do you learn from that? And what I learned from that is that our perfect plan isn't always how we draw it up. Opportunities arise, opportunities we didn't know would arise, and they can open up routes and a plan that's better than we ever thought could happen. See, through that injury, the first time in those 10 weeks, I was feeling homesick, and I was like, okay, if I don't recover from this, why don't I just send an application to my dream school back in Florida, just so I have a plan B if this fails. And after my second surgery, which I got January 5th, 2 days later, I got an email saying that I got accepted to that dream school and that I was able to return to Florida for my last year of college, 15 minutes away from my parents' house. See, the whole time I was worrying about my basketball path and how that career was affected by my injury, when a whole nother route was opening up that would allow me to be successful and happier and a better plan that I didn't even know existed because I was so focused on basketball. So as we conclude, each one of these examples demonstrate the irreplaceable value of failure. Each demonstrate that without setback, there is no accomplishment. Without struggle, there is no progress. And without the lessons we learn in failing, we can never truly find success. We do everything we can to avoid failure. We run from it, we hide from it, we look down upon it, and we fear it. But as these examples have shown, failure is actually necessary. We should view failure as progress towards growth and development. We should embrace failure as one step closer to reaching our goals. Because when we absorb, learn, and ultimately grow from these failures, we will discover that failure is the secret ingredient to success.